just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Jay Hudson all the way from San Antonio, Texas. He's been in private practice for 20 years. He graduated from Texas Tech University in 1993 and the University of Texas Health Science Center with a DDS in 1997. He currently provides orthodontic services for 5 offices in the San Antonio, Austin area and maintains a general practice in Devine, Texas. He's a big fan of Tip Edge Orthodontics, and we both are good friends with the Harry Green, who's an instructor there. Has allowed Dr. Hudson to provide comprehensive, predictable orthodontics to patients in rural areas for the past 15 years. He is married to Teri Hudson, and they have 4 children. He played independent league baseball for 8 years until injury sidelined him. He continues to play goalie in a men's soccer league for exercise and occasionally golfs. As a general dentist, orthodontics has been the key in growing his single doctor practice from $800,000 in 2006 to $2 million in 2017. That is just amazing. So now these 5 offices, big cities like Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, or small town rural America?
The 2 offices in Austin, one of them is in the north part of Austin in Round Rock, so it's pretty heavily commercialized. But the newer office is out in Pflugerville, which is east of Austin, out on the new toll road, and it's a little bit more rural out there. So there's not a whole lot going on out there except for some new growth. The San Antonio office is central to San Antonio. It's an old area. It's a practice that's been around for more than 20 years, and it's a guy that's moving into implants and restorative only and doesn't want to do, the orthodontics, but wants it in-house because his patients like coming there. And then my office is actually very rural. I'm about 40 minutes south of San Antonio. I'm probably closer to Mexico, not quite. And I am one of the only providers, besides some free clinics, for about 40 miles.
What city is that?
It's Devine, Texas.
Devine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Devine.
I call it Devine. And what's the population in Devine?
5,000.
5,000. And is it true or false for all the young kids listening to you that rural is just where to go? I mean, how many providers are in that town of Devine?
There is one free clinic that is, basically an extraction clinic and Medicaid clinic, but they don't do any Medicaid services as far as on children, from what I know. And I think that the dentist recently left there, but I am the only one in town.
And how far does it take do you live in Devine too?
I do. I live in Devine.
So you live in Devine, so that means your kids, unlike the city boys in Dallas, San Antonio, your kids can go out and shoot a 410 shotgun in the backyard without the sheriff coming to get you. Your boys can ride a mini bike down the street. You know how many times, I can't tell you how many times the police officers came to my house delivering one of my 4 boys, riding a mini bike on the street or carrying a weapon or, just everything that was normal behavior for me growing up in Kansas was all illegal behavior in Phoenix.
Yeah, mini bike with a weapon.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, just, you walk out in Phoenix with a 410 shotgun and you're 10 years old, the neighbors, they all call the police. In Wichita, they're just like, well, why do you use a 410? Why don't you get a 12 gauge to be a real man? I mean, you're 10 now. You're 10. Yeah. You should be able to shoot a 12 gauge when you're 10. Are you not eating right? So that's 2 offices in Austin, one in San Antonio, one in Devine, but you said you're doing 5 offices. What's the 5th?
There's another office in Austin also. It's in Cedar Park area. So it's Cedar Park, Round Rock, and Pflugerville, which are all North Austin.
Now, are these all your offices or are these all Heartland offices?
All these offices are Heartland offices. And so that's where the networking came in. And a lot of people are hesitant to do it. Invisalign has really taken off, and they've made some great changes, and people are feeling more comfortable using that. So, you'll see a lot of people that have mastered Invisalign, and a lot of our offices use it, and they don't want comprehensive bracket and wire orthodontics. And I'll tell you, from a standpoint of a corporation, if I were to leave, there's not a whole lot of people in our organization that could come in and complete the cases, so they would have to pay to transfer them. So I think a lot of problems you run into in you know, organizations that have multiple offices is that you're not going to find comprehensive orthodontics because there's nobody to service those people once you leave, or if you leave unexpectedly. So it can get quite expensive.
Now, would you say your patient demand, it's business supply and demand, what you're supplying, is it different in the bigger areas like Austin, San Antonio versus a smaller area like Devine? Like take Invisalign. Would the same percentage in Devine want Invisalign over fixed bracket as in San Antonio or Austin?
I believe so. I think that marketing has gotten, so broad that social network has carried Invisalign, from the city out to the country to foreign countries. So I think Invisalign's awareness has not only, helped people get more Invisalign cases, but I think it's also increased the number of bracket and wire cases because there's a lot of people that, quite frankly, can't handle their own Invisalign case, and I'm not talking about the dentist, I'm talking patient compliance, or there's just some things that can't be finished correctly in a reasonable amount of time. I'm not saying that it couldn't be completed, but in my hands, it's much easier to complete that with brackets and wires than it is with Invisalign trays.
So what percent of your week is actually doing ortho versus all the rest of the family practice mix?
Okay, so Monday through Thursday, I provide a general dentist in Devine. And I have two columns for general dentist work, and I have one column for ortho. So I probably see 30 to 40 patients a day, and 10 of those are ortho patients, and that's Monday through Thursday. Then I rotate Fridays through Austin and San Antonio and back to Austin again. And then on one Friday, I have an oral surgeon that comes into my Devine practice and provides sedation and implant dentistry. So we try in Devine not to refer out anything because, quite frankly, where we're at, people don't want to go to the city, and that's why they live there. So it was easier for us to provide lifetime care for people at our facility in Devine by bringing in specialties or keeping specialties in-house, and it's more affordable for them.
Yeah, every industry, at the end of the day, they really hate to put the customer first. Very few industries put the customer right up front. I mean, like look at these social media sites that purposely program so that links don't work or you can't forward this to your email. They want to keep you on their site. Look at I always give the example of the remote control. I mean, I've never met anyone who knows what all the buttons on a remote control do. Because everybody from every department is trying to get all their damn buttons from TV and the CD and the cable. And the next thing you know, you got a remote control with 80 buttons on it. But, the patient doesn't want to go to 5 different places to get their teeth fixed. No. I mean, we have 9 specialists. They don't want to run around town. They've already come to your place. They know where to park. They've already got a chart. And if I was a specialist, if I was an endodontist or a periodontist coming out of school, and I had the option of going buying land and building and going another $1 million in debt on top of your student loans versus just go find 5 really busy offices and go into each one day a week. I mean, and then it's solving your overhead. If you just went in and negotiated and say, I'll split it 50-50. I would take 50%. Now you have 50% overhead. You never have to worry about overhead. You never have to worry about management. You never have to, but every animal wants to go pee on the 4 corners of their territory, mark off their deal. I want my house. I want my office. But yeah, I think having specialists rotate through is amazing. So yeah, where do you draw the line between I want the general dentist to go spend a lot of money learning how to surgically place implants and do all these things versus just having a periodontist or an oral surgeon come by and place them? Where do you draw that line in these 5 offices?
I can't speak for that portion of it. Besides, I know that the people that come into my office are highly trained and have a high success rate. So those are things that I would check into if I'm at an office. Let's say I go to Austin and, I'm providing the orthodontic services, but I know they have a few others that come in and provide the other services. I'm looking at success rate, how the patients perceive them and their work, and if they're taken care of. I think really at the end of the day, that if the communication line is open, you're not going to have a lot of problems. And I think that's where most of the breakdown is with, I hate to say the younger generation, because they spend a lot of time on the phone and there's not the communication skills built up as, when I was in the 80s, 70s, you talk to each other. And so there's a little bit of a communication skill breakdown with most, if they've only been out 3 or 4 years. So if they can learn to hone that communication skill and really communicate with their patient and care about what they're doing, I don't think it's much the provider as it is the effort and the heart that's in it.
I think the single most important skill that might be worth 80-90% of all your success is your chairside manner.
I agree.
I mean, the people who got PhDs in economics and won Nobel Peace Prizes have proven at the University of Chicago that if I don't make you feel good, which they can measure by blood levels of you secreting oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, versus I just pissed you off and you're secreting adrenaline and noradrenaline and you're in fight or flight, that you're not going to separate with your cash until I'm making you feel good.
Right.
And every time I've ever seen anybody tell someone else, oh, you should use my pediatrician, he's the greatest, I'll say, well, where'd he go to school? I don't know. Is he board certified? I don't know. Has he ever been sued, lost his license? I don't know. They don't. It's not based on anything other than she just likes that pediatrician.
Right.
That pediatrician makes her secrete dopamine like a cup of coffee does.
Right. I agree.
So you got to turn into a cup of coffee chairside or caffeine from chocolate, and if you can't front load their dopamine, they're not going to like you. They're not going to come back. They're not going to refer their friends.
Right. And if you're in a small town like Devine, you're talking about generations of families that will come to your office. So if you move there and you're a young dentist and you take good care of X that's in front of you, their kids will follow and their kids will follow. And that's the kind of following that you have to have in order to make it in a small town. And that the communication has to be there to be able to come over and knock on your door or walk in and see you and not show that you're upset that happens. Like, you have to have an appointment and I don't want you walking in there without being, calling first. Those are types of things, if you're going to be in a rural community, you have to accept and you have to get past. And if you can do that, you'll be very successful.
Now, how far are you and your wife, Teri? Like, say Teri wants the big city stuff. She wants to go shopping, the fine dinner, the movie, whatever. How far of a drive is it for you guys to go to the big city?
So to make it to central San Antonio, which would be most of the shopping, is 45 minutes.
I know, and you're the only provider out there.
Yeah.
I see it. The last meltdown was 2008, and everybody should think about that because, look at your calendar. It's 2017. That was 9 years ago. It's coming up on a decade. And these cycles are pretty much every decade. Right. And you can, there's a lot of evidence that the real estate's in a bubble. We see the stock market letting out air. And the last crisis, 86 practices went under in the Phoenix Valley, and half of them were in North Scottsdale. And then you go 45 minutes south of town to Maricopa, just booming. And everybody I know, all my homies down there get 100 new patients a month with no effort. Mm-hmm. But the millennials, they just like, well, I'm going to North Scottsdale.
Of course.
That's where all the money is. It's like, okay, it's supply and demand. There's a dentist on every corner. Plus, on the rich areas, the average house, which only has 2.5 people in it, might take up half an acre.
Right.
Where you go to other parts of America, and a half an acre might have an apartment complex on it that's got 50 people in it. Mm-hmm. So what do you think the importance is for these millennials to realize that they can live in downtown San Antonio in the nicest condo overlooking that huge river going through town, which is about the size of a 1-lane street. Right. I love that river. But then they could commute 45 minutes to work. Plus, we're at the dawn of driverless cars. Yeah. So you'll be able to, I'm sure within 5 years, you'll just get up, you go in your car, you could lay down, take a nap, you could sit at a desk and do your email or whatever the hell and not even do the drive. Yeah.
And that being said, I could be busier than I am now. I have 2 hygienists. I used to have 3. One of them retired. I I have 2 hygienists now. You can't get a new appointment in my office, which is horrible, until the end of August right now. So we've hired a new part-time hygienist, but I'll tell you, for where I live, do you know how many applicants I had in a month and a half, even with a $1,500 signing bonus? Guess how many applicants I had? One. I had one. And of course, she got hired. So
it's
that's
good to be one of one.
It is. It's tough to get. It's tough to get someone to come out here and work. And I'm going to be looking for someone to come out here and do the general dentistry, because my end game would be to have the ortho in those 5 offices and just rotate. And I'll be happy with that. That's what I want to do. And after 20 years of practicing, you get to make those decisions. But your first 20 years, you better learn everything you can, because whatever you decide to do later on, you're going to have the basic knowledge of what's going on in the rest of the world with everything else. So it's maintaining CE, reading Dentaltown, watching podcasts. Those are the kind of things that'll keep you up to the things that you're not doing. Scanners for impressions, implants, all on 4 cases, all that stuff you keep up with. And those are just things I don't even do. That's not why I got into what I'm doing. That's a whole different deal. And it's not something that I enjoy. And after 20 years, your eyes start getting a little poorer, and your back and your arms. And, after playing baseball, I had my 11th surgery this year on my shoulder. So it's taken toll. I'd much rather do something that I can enjoy than,
But see, when a married man says he's had 11 surgeries and blames it on sports, I always wonder if he's ducking domestic violence, and really Teri is just going on to town on you. Does she use a golf club or a baseball bat?
I'm going to plead the 5th on that. She might be around the house somewhere. I'm not sure. So.
Hey, if you get clocked during the show, I'll call 911.
Someone pulls a strap from under me, then that's it.
So talk about your journey into getting ortho. Like what would your gut feeling be? What % of the general dentists do you think do ortho? And first of all, what % would you think?
I would think that general dentists do a lot of ortho to a percentage. I think there's a lot of general dentists doing Invisalign, and I think there's a lot of them doing some 6-month ortho, which I consider them doing orthodontics. But as far as comprehensive orthodontics, I bet it's relatively low. I would say under 25%, but I'm just not real sure. It's hard to track those numbers because you just never hear from those people that go to the general dentist and get braces. But I know they're out there because I have classmates that are doing ortho.
So what % of your ortho is Invisalign versus short-term ortho versus Harry Green and tip edge?
Okay, so I would say 70% of mine is comprehensive ortho with tip edge. I'd say probably the rest is Invisalign, and I don't do a lot of limited orthodontics. If I do, I use tip edge brackets to do that, or removable appliances on interceptive ortho. So
what are your thoughts on short-term ortho?
I think short-term ortho for me is best for ortho relapse or setting up a case for something else. I'm not really sold on cosmetic enhancement with brackets and wires in the anterior without fixing the occlusion. My background goes more to occlusion base. And so I don't know if you've ever heard Mike Miyazaki. He's in the Vegas area. I love that guy. If anybody ever gets a chance to go hear some occlusion, that's the guy to go to. And he's the one that kind of—
His dad's a dentist.
Yeah. He's the one that's been around.
Is he second or third generation dentist?
I think he's second. I think his dad was a dentist and he's second generation. And I think his boy may be interested in it, but I think he's still too young. I don't even know if he's in college yet.
Yeah.
So, but that's I wanted to set my town up to not come in and buy a denture or a partial every 5 years. I wanted them to set them up to come in and whiten their teeth, or maybe a small filling, or you still do some restorative because there's beef down here. But I wanted the town I'm in and the community I'm in, and I have patients come from almost 100 miles. I wanted them to have lifetime care, and I think it's important. And so we educate all our patients on lifetime care as well.
So walk us through your journey of all the ortho systems. Why did you end up with Harry Green and Tip Edge Ortho as opposed to any other camp?
Okay, so like anyone out of dental school, I had the mindset that a big city was best. And I went to Plano, Texas, was my first office. And I was in Plano for 3 years, and I worked at a high-end cosmetic office. You can imagine Plano in the 90s was very ritzy, expensive. It's where the Dallas Cowboys lived, the Dallas Stars lived, the Dallas Mavericks lived. They were filming TV shows out there. I mean, it was booming. And I had people coming in for a lot of veneers. You know, it was the veneer craze time. And after 2 years of doing that, seeing the problems and the amount of tooth structure I was reducing, I thought there's got to be a better way to make these teeth nice without having to just take a burr to them and mow them down, and they're virgin teeth. So I started looking at some short-term ortho classes at the school at Baylor, and I took a few CE courses there just to kind of dip my feet in the water and see if I could just do some little alignment, almost like 6-month ortho, to set up veneer cases. And what I found out was that was, you know, okay with some, but it caused some more issues. You know, proper verticals, knocking off veneers, occlusion, bruxers, all that stuff. So then I took Invisalign. This was, you know, about 5 years out at that time. And I thought, okay, well, Invisalign is something that can also help me get there, but it's a little bit more comprehensive than what I'm doing. I tried that for a year or two. The compliance was a big issue. People were always in a hurry. So I moved away from Plano down here. And so I was concentrating more on my own practice.
So did you sell your Plano office or?
No, I was just an associate.
Okay, you're an associate.
Associate there. I was still learning. I was wanting to learn everything. And it was a good area. There was a lot of guys from my class moving there also. So then I took Rick DePaul's class. I took Rick DePaul's class up in Denver. And he, you know, I kept asking questions, and it was a Power Prox course, so it was like a 6-month ortho class. And I said, what's my next step, Rick? What do I need to do? I'm in a town now where they're bringing their kids in and saying, look, we want braces put on our child, and we don't want to drive to San Antonio. We want you to do it. And so I thought, okay, well, now it's time to just fully jump into this deal. So I took Rick DePaul's class, immediately called Harry, and signed up for his next class, and the next one after that, and I was probably there more than he wanted me to be. And so this was about 2008.
So did Rick DePaul recommend Harry Green?
He did.
Nice.
I met Harry by way of Rick. If it weren't for Rick, wouldn't have met Harry. If it wasn't for Harry, wouldn't be here today. So that class really jump-started the comprehensive ortho, and I was online with Harry every day. Tell me what I need to do here. Tell me what I need to do there. It came down to one more thing. When I was in Harry's class, there was a guy that's on Dentaltown a lot, Scott Luna, and he owned some practices, and Scott was involved in a car accident. Scott had already started a lot of cases, and so at this point, he couldn't finish them. So I jumped into Scott's practice in San Antonio, and I was seeing 80 tip edge patients a day. I had 4 assistants. I had 4 chairs going. I saw one patient every 30 minutes from 7 to 7 with a 30-minute lunch, and I did that for 4 years. While I was doing that, I was growing my practice in Devine. And I'll tell you, that is a quick way to learn orthodontics, is to have 80 people in front of you weekly with all kinds of issues. And that's when Harry really came in handy. And George Gutierrez as well. He lives here also, who teaches Harry's class. And so those were communication lines I had that were invaluable to me.
And the other biggest trick when you're learning ortho, I mean, I started out with Harry Green. Richard Litt, because he was a board-certified orthodontist that taught at 2 schools. And then I did Harry Green. He's another orthodontist, board-certified orthodontist. But when I started my training, I did it when I had an opening for an assistant, and I hired. I got an assistant who had 10 years experience in an orthodontic office. Because I'm telling you, if you're an orthodontic assistant, full-time ortho, in an orthodontist office, I mean, I would go to course after course after course, and I wasn't even close to what she knew.
Right.
And I had high self-esteem, so we would go in there, and she would, when I would go in there, she would treat me like a student, and she'd say, "Okay, Dr. Farran, so here's what I'm thinking." You know what I mean? And, so that is amazing. And what percent of the orthodontic work do the orthodontic assistants actually do?
Well, she preps everything. I see every patient first, and I see every patient last. There's not a bracket that haven't placed myself. She can re-cement some molar bands. She can put bands on. But as far as records and making sure the patients are okay on an emergency basis, it's all her. I mean, I would say she's 80% hands-on, and I'm 20. I may be using my brain, but I'm not in there doing it.
So if you have a two-operatory practice, general dentist, you're thinking you're adding another op, and you're going to do ortho, well, you'll need an assistant for that room. If you're going to do ortho, go find someone who's been an orthodontic assistant for a long time. And if you decide that you're going to do it, add that room for surgery, and you're going to start placing implants, don't get an assistant who has 5 years experience and 3 of the years were up front doing dry hand work. Go find someone who worked for an oral surgeon or a periodontist, because I'm telling you, those dental assistants are just sponges, and they learn it all. And a lot of doctors don't like that because of a big ego. But if you're hungry and humble and listen, and I mean, I remember when I hired Jan, I mean, she had worked for one of the most famous dentists out here for 8 years. She worked for him the whole 7 years I was in college. Yeah. And then when I opened up, she came work for me. And I mean, for 10 years, she'd always say, "Well, that's not how he did it." Because, he was 20 years older than me. And he was a legend, and he taught, and it was just so amazing. And I mean, I got so many thousands of hours of free continuing education. So now you're actually teaching at Harry Green's Tip Edge course. Is that mostly in Phoenix?
It is in Phoenix, and I'm not.
Is it only in Phoenix?
It's in Scottsdale. He's got another class in California, and
really,
yeah, he's in Manhattan Beach actually. So that'd be a nice class to go visit. Would be the Manhattan Beach class.
Yeah.
But I don't teach clinical. I'm more on how to set up the front desk, for insurance and training your front desk to do treatment plans. Training an assistant, how you do appointment times, marketing yourself, marketing strategies, everything that I do to communicate with my patients and make everything run smooth, stay organized, make sure you're doing everything according to the rules as far as, treatment planning, forms that need to be signed, follow-up, retainer maintenance, everything. And so we try to make that exactly like it was if you were going to a specialist, because that's what you're held to, is that specialty form.
Well, it's kind of interesting because you're in this great state of Texas that just had the big lawsuit with specialties, where I guess the Texas Dental Association was telling a guy who was saying he specialized in implants that wasn't one of their specialties, and he can't say that. And basically, the Texas court said, "Who the hell are you? You're a membership organization. You're not a legislative body, and the American Dental Association is not the government. It's a club. And so kick him out of your club." But I mean, he actually does only focus on implants. He specializes in implants, and he's saying the truth. It's fair. What did you think of that lawsuit and all that hubbub?
I'm not big into titles. I don't even announce myself as Dr. Hudson when I walk in the room. I just say, "Hey, I'm Jay." To call yourself, if I were to call myself an orthodontist, would be selling myself short, because I do a lot more than that. I provide orthodontics at those offices, and I wouldn't mind saying that. But some people like to have the title, and I think if they're doing enough of them, go for it. Call yourself whatever you want, because I've seen plenty of general dentists that do work as well or better than some of the specialists I've seen. I don't think it has anything to do with schooling. I just think it has to do with, again, back to slowing down, making sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, and caring about the patient and making sure that your cases are good. That's it.
So you've been out 20 years, right?
I have.
And where along your journey did you decide you sold your one practice at a time to Heartland?
I did.
And when how long ago was that? And walk us through your journey on why you made that decision and how has that decision turned out?
I will. Howard, the downturn of 2008 that you talked about before was key. It almost shut my town down. And when you have practice debt, I acquired that practice in 2004, and it's a 3,400 square foot freestanding building with 6 operatories, fully decked out, latest everything, plus the practice debt. You can't walk away from that. You can't walk away from that. You can't walk away from your patients. Orthodontics did save me a little bit during that time. But what I realized during that time, when you're trying to take a practice and crunch numbers together so you can survive, you have to realize is none of my training in dental school was for that. None of it. As an associate, it wasn't my training. I had no business background. Me trying to run that kind of show didn't work in my hands. A lot of guys are good at it. A lot of guys can do that, and more power to them. I didn't want to do that anymore, but I still wanted to be in the same location. So Heartland came in, made a nice offer. I accepted. I'm a stockholder, and now I'm a shareholder too because I'm supporting other offices as well. For me, it was fantastic. You can punch online on any blog or board and see the evil corporate dentistry, but I'll tell you what, there's only one thing that's come of me jumping onto the corporate ship, and that is I can provide better care for my patients now than I could have in 2008 because I wasn't worrying about paying the electric bill or where the next payroll check was coming from. That's out of my hands, and all I have to do is show up to work, which I have done and never missed a day for 20 years.
So you've been with them 9 years in 2008 to 2017?
2009 till 2017, yeah.
So 8 years.
Yep.
So how is it now? Now that you're past the honeymoon, you've been with them long term. Obviously, you don't have to stay in there. You're not a prisoner. So you decided you wanted to stay. So how is it now?
I love it. There's everything I could ask for. You're never told no. No one's in charge of what I do at my office as far as practice decisions or, decisions that I see being talked about as far as, you need to come in and you need to do this many crown preps and this many. Those guys that talk about corporate dentistry making constraints like that, they have meetings too saying how many crowns they need to do and how many, it's the same thing. I control everything in my office, and I control the aspect of the offices that I go to. But I don't think it's any different from when I had my own practice. I've just got a stronger bond with some of these people now. There's not one of these guys that I couldn't call up and that would fly down here and take over my practice for a week if I was going to be out. There's a tremendous number of people that are with Heartland that I don't even think people realize. You've got Salema, Bruce Baird. You've got all these guys that are in Heartland, and they joined for the same reason, is that sky's the limit on education. And I think that, to me,
who you said besides Bruce Baird? Salema?
Yeah.
He's the one. You mean with Goldstein and Garber in Atlanta?
Correct.
So how do you pronounce? It's Salama.
I believe so. Salema.
Huh.
Yeah. But
yeah, he's a great guy. I walked in on him at his office. I was in Atlanta and I was lecturing and I had lunch breaks. So I thought, hell, I'm going to run over there and shake his hand. Great guy. Just a great guy.
They are. And
so he sold to Heartland. Goldstein, Garber, and Salama. That's probably one of the biggest brand name dental offices that ever existed in Atlanta. Bruce Baird, big, huge office. Why do you think Why do you think dentists think that corporate dentistry is going to ruin dentistry? Why do you think it's the big fear monster?
Well, I think when you start getting in a big city where you've got maybe a brand name next to you that you know about, and you have maybe an inexperienced dentist next door, which would be there even if it weren't name brand. People bring in treatment plans and they don't agree with them, and they think that some of the ideals are not the same as theirs, and it's easy to bash that because you're not part of that group. Do I think there's some bad ones? Sure. I mean, they need to be corrected, but the thing I like about our company is everyone's held accountable. They can punch up my records every day and see a root canal I did this morning, or a crown, or extraction, or whatever. And if it's not correct, you're going to probably get a phone call and say, they're not paying this claim because your root canal's half filled. There's accountability, and so I don't know if a lot of those other chain offices or things like that, name brand offices, have that. But I like that because now you're going to do a good job. If someone's looking over your shoulder, you're going to do a little bit different as if you're hiding out on your own.
Well, I see dentists as a sovereign profession. We're all colleagues in the same profession serving our patients. And I see these dentists in, over 125,000 locations open Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, out of a week with 168 hours. So they're open 32 hours, which is 19% of the week. And then I watch the 6,000 graduates come out. They don't employ our colleagues. They don't employ them. The only people picking up the slack is corporate. And then that dentist goes home Thursday at 5 o'clock. His phone's ringing off the hook, but since they don't leave a message, or, a lot of them are unlisted. I mean, the only people unlisted are dentists and drug dealers and politicians. Everyone else, is listed. And those associates could go in that office, like in healthcare and in hospitals. You graduate from med school, the hospital might say, hey, Jay, you're going to work a 24-hour around-the-clock day on Friday and Sunday. You're like, cool. You could have those young kids come in and work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 12-hour days. So they don't hire them. They're not there for their patients. So who's the bad guy? Oh, corporate dental. Yeah, they're the bad guys. And then the other end, liquidity. You saw that with AutoNation, where you had all these guys that were 70 that owned all these big auto dealerships, and they had no one who's got $10 million to buy a car dealership. The only people who do have $10 million cash, the last thing they'd buy is a car dealership open 7 days a week with all the B2C customer complaints, all that stuff. So AutoNation said, well, we'll go get a $100 million line of credit and we'll go buy out all these guys. So they're providing liquidity. Bruce Beard was in a small town doing like $4 million a year. Who the hell's going to buy a $4 million practice? Heartland could. Right. Goldstein, Garber, and Salama, they'd have no liquidity. So corporate, to me, it's a liquidity play for the guys who have illiquid assets. It provides jobs for the young, and it's only 12% of the market. Right. Meanwhile, back in the dentist's office, by the time that dentist gets 5,000 charts, 4,000 of them never came back. So who's the bad guy? Corporate. Yeah. Okay, really, dude? So 4 out of 5 of all your patients never came back, and the bad guys, corporate dentistry. Are you sure it's not North Korea? Are you sure it's not Putin? Are you sure it's not some intergalactical star? It's never the man in the mirror. Right. And the man in the mirror stays humble, stays hungry, stays curious, keeps learning, keeps plowing his garden. I mean, they asked Mother Teresa, if you found out you were going to die tomorrow, what would you do? And she said, I wouldn't change a thing. I'd just keep on plowing my garden. So stay humble, stay hungry, keep learning, serve your patient. And the last problem in the bubble you live in is the dentist across the street, whether it's owned by corporate or whoever owns it. In fact, I don't even care if the office is corporate or not. I don't want to know who I'm competing with, that guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, you get some amazing great guy who's got long-term staff, big recall, doing everything right, that is competition. It doesn't matter what the name of the practice is or anything like that.
Right.
So it looks like there's been a change at Harlan. Pat Bauer, you said he's now the president and CEO. He's scheduled to come on the show.
Yeah, Pat's great. I tell you what, I think that what a lot of people need to realize also about our company is when you get guys like Rick Workman and Pat Bauer giving you a chance to get a piece of the action, to get a piece of a company, then what are you going to do when you're given a piece of a company? Well, you're going to want to make it better. So you're going to do your best, and you're going to work a little bit harder for that company to do better. And by giving everyone in our company that chance, you're not going to see anything but growth in a positive direction. We have many, many CEs all over the nation every weekend, whatever you can imagine. And it's free. And people will say it's not free. It's coming out of his profit and loss. Fine. I'm not paying out off my American Express, having to write a check for that. It's just, it's like it wasn't ever there. And it's not that big a deal. And I think that since they've given us the opportunity to do that, that's how a real company works that really cares about not only the people that work for them, but us caring for our patients too. It just carries over. And I think that's the best thing that you can say about Pat and our company, is that they have truly given us a chance to grow with the company. And it's hard not to take that chance.
Yeah, and I have been to Rick's house a few times over the year. That is just a good old boy from Effingham, Illinois. He's from, what is that town, about 10,000?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's about twice the size of where I'm at.
And I had one of the most fun things there. I was, we were hanging out and going to dinner or whatever, and there was this lady there who owned 3 McDonald's franchises, and because Effingham is like 2 major east-west interstates, and she was just crushing it.
Something.
What's that?
I think it's a FedEx depot. I remember it being like a big FedEx shipping yard there.
Yeah, my God, she was. And I saw this girl. I said, "Well, my dad was in Sonics, and I've always wanted to go back there and cook my own Big Mac because I spent 10 years in a Sonic drive-in, and I wanted to check that out." And we were at a really nice restaurant. We just sat out. She goes, "All right, skip this place. Let's go make Howie a Big Mac." So we jump in the car. She drives to her one of her 3 offices, and she went back there and schooled me because I just love the logistics. I love the way. Did you see the movie The Founder?
I did. I love it.
What do you think of that movie?
It's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be. You just have to have. You would have to work at McDonald's 10 years to appreciate the attention to detail and how they squeeze 5 seconds out of this movement, 10 seconds out of that movement. Because before McDonald's, in all of America, it took an hour to get a hamburger fry and a Coke. You go to every burger joint, had the same business model. You'd walk in there, they'd seat you, they'd take your drink order, they'd come bring you your drinks, then you'd order a hamburger fry, they'd go get that to the chef. It's about 50 minutes after the hour before you got your basket of hamburger fries. You'd wolf it down, and it was an hour to flip a table. And then here comes the Irish, and they reduced that to 3 minutes. It reminded me of the most controversial article we ever published in Dentaltown. I bet you remember it. It was another Texan, Scott Painter. Was it Scott Painter, the 15-minute root canal?
Yes, I do. I remember.
And the endodontist wrote me the nastiest, vulgarest letters that nobody could do a root canal in 15 minutes, and why would you publish this stuff, and it's not even the endodontist, and you're just bad, evil. But I actually had gone down there and met Jerome Smith to his office because I wanted to see it. And what it was is an endodontist. He actually spent the same amount of time or more on the tooth than any endodontist, but the endodontist, he drills a little bit, then he takes out his slow speed, and he's unhooking the deal and changing the files. Scott, when he walked in the room, he already had 4 slow speeds, the files already loaded. He he just mastered the operation and logistics. And by
Right.
the time he sat down that molar, it was so operations and logistics magic that it was McDonald's building a hamburger fry in 3 minutes where everyone else would take an hour. And that guy was, and he's still doing it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing on like I go into every dental office. Seems like every single procedure of anybody you watch, the dental assistant has to leave the room once or twice during every appointment. He'll
Right.
ask for something, and she'll take off her gloves, and then he'll sit back and wait. It's like, how did you not know you were going to need that? Well, we only have one. We only have one, and so we shut down all labor. We just shut down the whole machine because we're trying to only have one slow speed, or just whatever, or just crazy. But if
Yeah.
every dentist treated every operatory like Ray Kroc did of the founder for a hamburger and a fry, if everybody thought that out for a root canal, filling, and crown, everybody could do twice as much dentistry in half the time. But you tell dentists that, and they think, well, if you want me to do twice as much dentistry in half the time, you're a slave driver or you're doing crappy dental work.
Right.
It's like it's actually the exact opposite. You work less, and the quality goes high.
Right.
So Pat Bauer is going to come on the show.
Great.
I love that. Last, you've been on here for an hour. Thank you so much for your time. What would you say? Podcasters are young; they're millennials. Pretty much everybody you're talking to is 30 and under.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who was thinking about joining Heartland?
Who
would be the perfect fit? Who would not be the perfect fit?
If you've got a practice that's struggling and it's a budget problem and you can't get things you need in order to provide care that you can do well, look at selling your practice. If you can't find a job that's steady and you're between 3 offices, one's on Monday, one's on Tuesday, Thursday, if that's you, that's not good. That's something that I did early in my career, and that's not something you want to do. You need followers, you need rapport, you need follow-up. And so if you're doing that, look for an office. Call our home office and find a place. You can move anywhere. I'm telling you, we have places everywhere. The pay is competitive. You're not going to struggle. You're not going to go broke. You're not going to be told what to do. You are going to be held accountable, which you should be. You should be held accountable. You were held accountable in dental school. You couldn't just do what you wanted to. If you've not mastered something, somebody needs to help you. And we have those avenues to help you. If you've got a practice to sell and you're in an area like I was, the bank's not going to give somebody $2 million anymore for pie in the sky. If that's what you've got, look at Heartland. They'll buy it. If you're doing well, you've been doing the right thing, and you've got space to grow. They'll grow you. So those are people I think. And I think the same thing with learning orthodontics or any specialty. For me, I like those light wire forces, moving teeth, non-extraction technique. And for me, Harry had everything that I wanted, and I was able to talk to somebody that's a specialist whenever I wanted. And that's just probably not going to be around. That's not going to be around much anymore. So for me, that was huge. And so now I know way more than I ever could. And it started with baby steps, taking the class, putting a few cases together, and just going from there. And I think in my hands, Harry Green, his class was wonderful. And it really helped me grow in Heartland as well.
So do you know a Heartland boy out here named Vince Rochelle?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with him.
Raushel?
Not that I know of. We have close to 1,000 offices, so that would mean close to 2,000 doctors. So I haven't met everybody.
And my Alzheimer's mind finally remembered where my dental assistant worked while I was in Creighton and UKC for 7 years. It was Michael Schuster of the Schuster Center.
Yes.
And oh my God, he was so good. She loved him so much. She left because he was starting to do more teaching, and she had to go with some new associate guy, and she came over with me. But I mean, I hired Jan after 7 years of working for Dr. Michael Schuster. So for 10 years, 3 times a day, I'd hear, well, that's not how Dr. Schuster did it. And I was hungry and I was humble and I was 24. And I'd say, okay, well, I mean, he's the man. He's got the Schuster Center. He's got an institute. I'm not going to argue with any of that stuff. That's just ego and arrogance. But it's amazing how much training I got from hiring a quality staff. That's another thing that Heartland and those places do. They take over a lot of the HR training, the staff. What do you think of their efforts on educating the team?
I tell you what, one of the biggest problems I had even when I joined Heartland is I live in an area that it's tough to find someone to hire. So the first person that came along, I'm like, oh yeah, can you start next week? Heartland's a little bit more tactical about that approach, and they took that away from me and said, look, let us hire the person that's the right fit for you. And they take their time and interview and make sure personalities match and that they're going to match with the rest of the office, which I never took that into account, but it really does make a difference in transferring patients to different departments, to getting things completed on time, tasks. Those are things that I'm glad they took over. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, HR is the most important function of every business. I mean, imagine if the Dallas Cowboys just hired anybody that was eager to play on the Cowboys, and
Right.
and so many dentists, when they have someone leave or quit or whatever, instead of locking that down with a temp, so you can slow down and really take the time for a great. I mean, HR is just it's everything,
Mm-hmm.
and the dentist thinks the most important secret is which bonding agent you use,
Right.
and it's HR.
Yeah. And that's all the dentist should know is which bonding agent to use, and someone else should be doing the HR. So,
Yeah, 11 surgeries,
yeah.
and from sports. The Mayweather McGregor fight, August 26th. Who's going to need surgery after that fight? Who's going to win that?
I
Who's going to
hope
win that fight? Who's going to lose?
McGregor. I hope McGregor just tears him a new one. I love that guy. He's got some spunk, and I'm tired of seeing Mayweather bring it around. So,
But who do you think will win? Do you think McGregor can fight a boxer without using his legs?
I'm going to say yeah. I think he can.
Oh my God, I'm 100% Irish, so I have to go with the man from Ireland. But
Right.
my God, that's gonna be, I don't know.
Fantastic.
I wonder what they're each gonna make. I bet McGregor will make more money on that one fight than he's made in his entire career.
I'm sure. I'm sure he will. Yeah, it's going to be huge, and I'm sure the price tag on that event, just to watch it on TV, is going to be huge.
Oh yeah, and I can't tell you how many HBO fights I paid for where the entire fight was like 30 seconds. You're like, did I just drop like $80 for 30 seconds? Or someone bites the other guy's ear and they cancel the fight. Remember that one?
Yeah. You remember with the one where the guy paraglided into the ring outside? Remember that?
Yeah.
I fight, dude brings a paraglider into the ring. Yeah, that was a waste. Same thing.
Yeah. So last question, and I'll let you go back to your beautiful family. Last question. Put your dad hat on. 6,000 kids just graduated from dental school. If you were given that 3-4 minute commencement speech, what advice do you have for 6,000 sovereign professional dental homies who just walked out of school last week?
Don't settle for your first job. Don't walk into a place and start working there just because that's the first place you go and they say yes. Find a place you're comfortable living. Live below your means for at least the first 4 years. Sock money away. Pay off those student loans. And when you get 10 years out, your life will be much easier without debt, because debt will ruin your career because your mind's not focused on what you've learned.
And what percent of millennials do you think live below their means?
I'm not sure, but I know that their debt load is 5 times what mine was.
Yeah, and did you drive a brand new Honda Acura when you got out of school?
I did not.
Did you go on cruises during spring break?
No, I
Did you
didn't.
fly across the country and drop $4,000 on these boutique dental courses instead of buying the textbook for $111 and just reading the damn book?
No, I didn't.
I
I
mean,
didn't.
they spend money like it's like they own a printer.
Yeah, but Howard, what I did do, and I will admit to this, I did take part of my last student loan check and I bought a jet ski. That
Yeah.
was a bad idea.
But I'm telling you, I don't know if it's because they haven't lived through a downturn. You know, one of the luckiest things I did is when I graduated in '87. I graduated May 11 '87, and
Yeah.
Black Monday was that October.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And that's a great thing to have on your journey. Is that just when you're starting to boom, you see it all disappear. I think the graduates that graduated in 2008 are far more financially alert than the ones who graduated 10 years after. Remember from 93 to 2000 when the NASDAQ basically doubled and tripled? I mean, a monkey
Yeah.
could pick a stock and double their money in a year.
Dot-coms were booming, and if you held on to it too long, your money was gone, just like the real estate market we had crash.
And the dentists coming out in 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, they spent money, borrowed money. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
casino money.
Right. That
And
was
then it
was me.
popped, and they're like, damn. And
Yeah.
the minimalist lifestyle is the lowest stress, and the best
is.
way to lower your stress is drive an old car. Go back and live with your parents if you got $350,000 of student
Right.
loan. Just so final last question on that. Sorry, I keep having the next last question. What
Got it.
about these expensive new technologies? Does Heartland roll out a $150,000 CEREC machine in every location, a $90,000 laser, a $100,000 CBCT? What is a big professional management service, dental services organization that really can figure out a return on investment? What do they think about those three big purchases?
All of our offices have everything you want if you practice there. We rolled out over 150 scanners in the first quarter, iTero scanners. Usually one office in each of our major cities will have a huge cone beam or whatever, huge X-ray units, hospital grade. Almost every office has a laser. A number of offices have CERECs if that's what you want to do, but them rolling out the scanners gives us the advantage of getting a quick turnaround time from our labs that we've contracted with, and so you can get a crown back in just a week or so. But there's nothing that they say no to, but your numbers have to fit, and you have to remember that they're teaching you how to budget an office, which then in turn teaches you kind of how to budget your. So if you're a millennial and you want to spend some money, then don't go buy your own office. You need to work for someone like us, and that way you can count on the money that you're spending every month. If you go out and buy a new office and a new car and a new house and all that stuff right out of dental school, I can assure you in 5 years you will be bankrupt. You will run out of money.
So why do you think the largest DSO, Heartland, I mean, no one's bigger than that. They have, 700 locations and 1,400 dentists. Why do you think that out of all the scanners, why did they pick iTero as opposed to all the other ones on the market?
Well, I'm not sure that they're all iTero scanners, but we do run clinical trials through all of our offices. A lot of the offices that are our base offices, which are probably the first 100 or 200, which is mine, they will run clinical trials through there with scanners, seeing how easy that the dental assistants use them, how good the quality is. We have quality control at the labs that will send back a picture of your scan if it was bad, or if you have a remake. Those are all tracked. Everything is tracked. All of the decisions they make are based on our clinical directors putting those in action for at least a year or two before we turn them over to the hands of the general dentist in the company.
Now, is iTero owned by Align?
I am not sure, Howard. I don't have a scanner in my office. I haven't messed with any of them. I know it's there. I see the emails about them. But I am not familiar with any scanner technology right now. Now, soon I'll get one. traveling between offices is going to make it a lot easier for me to provide the services I provide if I have one. So I think in the near future I'll have one, and I can have that answer for you next time.
The thing I like about scanners is all my lab CEO friends tell me that when you send in an impression material, it's about a 6% remake for the whole lab. When you send in a scan, it's about a 1%. And I think it's because when you take an Impergum impression and you're 56 or 54 and you got your loops on, you're looking at that purple deal, it's hard to see the prep and the margin.
Right.
But when you scan and you see that tooth 40 times larger every single time you look at it, the first time you see it, you're embarrassed and you go back to work and try to make it look prettier and clean it up and all that stuff. I think it's always magnification. When everybody in clinical wears loops, the hygienist, the dentist, the assistant, the quality doubles just because they can see. You can't remove tartar and excess cement if you're a hygienist or assistant if you can't see it. And I think the scanners is just a magnification play, no different than a microscope for an endodontist.
I agree.
And I remember in oral surgery. I remember every time I ever got in trouble in oral surgery school at University of Missouri, Kansas City, Charles White, Brett Ferguson, they'd come over and they'd say, "Well, hell, Howie, you can't see. Look at that flap. Your flap's not big enough." He says a 4-inch flap will heal the same time as a 2-inch flap. He goes, "I couldn't pull the tooth with that flap." So it's always about visual. And then he'd jump in there, double the size of the flap in like 1 minute. And then anybody could see the tooth, the mandible, what you had to do next. But you're just poking around and you couldn't see. You know what I mean? So magnification is always directly the fastest, easiest way to increase the quality is just to see.
I agree. Totally. Everybody.
And that's why Stevie Wonder never became a dentist.
I agree.
That's why he chose the piano instead.
Maybe 2 reasons there.
Oh my God. And he was born with his vision. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
You know how he lost his vision?
Tell me.
So when he was born, they put him in an incubator and the incubator just rolled out. So if the incubator's, airs 20.9% oxygen, it was somebody's great idea. Well, hell, instead of 20.9, let's go 100% oxygen. And then it took them a couple of weeks for them to realize that all the babies they put in those 100% oxygen incubators burned off a layer of their eyeball and were blind.
Goodness.
But it's always the question, if that didn't have happened to him, would he have been that focused? Would he have been Stevie Wonder if that wouldn't have happened? That's my question. But, hey.
Everything happens for a reason, Howard. Everything happens for a reason.
All right, buddy. Seriously, though, thank you for your 750 posts on Dentaltown. I've been following you for years. Huge fan of yours. Please try to get Harry Green, my buddy, one of my best friends who lives up the street. He's too shy to come over to my house to be at a podcast. He always says, "I don't know what I'd say." I'm like, "Dude, you give 3-day lectures. Just give me 1 hour of your 3-day lectures." So if you see Harry, tell him to come on over to the house. Thank you for all that you do for dentistry. Thank you so much for all that you've done for Dentaltown, and good luck with those 4 babies.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Howard, and you guys have a good day out there.